Chapter 41. You are listening at Mtlnovel.audio. The snow was still falling, and the waves were gently lapping at the beach. On the desolate beach, Finn was training his moves. Under the fallen angel, afterimages flickered, leaving only faint footprints on the snow. The fist wind whistled, releasing the ultimate power, and the space seemed to be trembling. There were ruins not far away, at the other end of the island, towards the Drum Island pier. Spies from major pirate groups have been coming since a few days ago. Most of these people who arrived early came from super large groups, and only they have the strength to configure such positions. Among them is Big Mon's 17th son Charlotte Comper, who is short, smart and meticulous, and is responsible for intelligence work. Their main purpose is to confirm Finn's strength and whether he can really compete with the general. If true, this will be the person who determines the situation. He cannot be offended, and he must be won over as much as possible. They have long passed the era of fighting and killing, and what they need is to win over the strong to join and live a stable life. Afterwards, many pirate groups arrived one after another. Some of them were ambitious young generations, such as the Kid Pirates, who were just starting out and were full of courage and wanted to challenge Finn and become famous all over the world. Some were elite members of large pirate groups, hoping to make a name for themselves here. In addition, there were some lone travelers who came with the passion to challenge Finn and challenge the strong, and so on. Of course, there were also many relatively weak pirate groups who knew that they were not strong enough, so they came as a whole team. After all, there was only one ship. They didn't come to join in the fun, see the world, and try their luck, thinking that they might be recruited by the big guys. Some simply came to spend a vacation and join in the fun, such as the Crazy Wolf and his men from the Cloud Island. It can be said that they all had their own thoughts. All of a sudden, the Drum Island seemed to have become the focus of the entire Great Line, and Finn himself was concentrating on honing his moves in the snow curtain, and he seemed to have never noticed all this. The atmosphere on the island became solemn and strange, and every falling snowflake was filled with a hint of suspense. The whole island was filled with a strange silence. No one made trouble. Everyone knew that there were too many people coming, and they might run into iron plates. No one who could come here on the sea was a fool. If there was, they would have sunk into the depths of the sea long ago. On the sea, the strong prey on the weak, and conspiracy is calculated. You need to be careful and beware everywhere. No wonder people say that the sea can turn boys into men. The passion of hot blood is exclusive to young people. They haven't suffered enough losses, their blood has not cooled down, and they are still eager for adventure. Magnetic Drum Island has also ushered in a prosperous scene of business opportunities, and various industries have burst into vitality. Among them, the hotel industry and bars have become the most popular places, with crowds of people surging and bustling. These pirates, who do not work, have never known that money is hard-earned, and they spend lavishly, enjoying high-end red wine and cigarettes. Of course, isn't this the dream of many people to become pirates, hoping to make a fortune? The permanent pointer of Drum Island is in short supply. After all, this is the center of the storm, and it is necessary to have it. Some people may say that these pirates are really idle. Yes, that's right. What can pirates do? It's just eating, drinking and having fun. A strange picture is presented on the island. From the perspective of God, you will be surprised to find that Ace, who is determined to catch Blackbeard, is staying in the same hotel with Blackbeard, and they are only a few houses away. At this time, both sides are unaware of each other's existence and are waiting for some important news. Since leaving the Whitebeard pirates in the worst way, Blackbeard knew that he would be chased and intercepted by the Whitebeard pirates because he committed the biggest taboo of the world's strongest man. He can come to Drum Island with a swagger, which means he has his own support. Having been on Whitebeard's ship for so many years and experiencing countless battles, he was able to survive, which was enough to show how powerful he was. Moreover, he did not need to sleep, and had twice as much time to practice as ordinary people. Of course, from Red Hair's injuries, we can see that he was at least at the level of a quasi-admiral. After so many years of bearing humiliation and secretly accumulating strength, he finally got his wish and waited for his dark fruit. Did he wait for the fruit, or did the fruit choose its owner? This dark fruit, which is a perfect match for Blackbeard, is really a mystery. He knows how to endure when he has no strength, and he takes decisive action when he has strength. It can be seen that he is a bold, careful, resourceful, and decisive person. I have to mention that Oda is a cartoonist, and the characters he created have caused people to have a deep misunderstanding of Blackbeard. Many people seem to have determined that Blackbeard is the funny face in the anime, and he even has a few teeth missing in his mouth. This is just to create a funny effect visually, so those characters with unique personalities, different values or personalities are too stereotyped, thus uglifying the character image. The same is true for the celestial dragons. Can the characters who enjoy the best treatment in the world really be that kind of funny image? If they are all such idiots, then what kind of justice do the strong men in the Navy insist on? Every group has a group of termites, regardless of region, no matter which world or era they are in, there is never a shortage of them. In fact, Blackbeard is a tall middle-aged man with a thick black beard, a body that shows more muscular lines, and no extra fat. If Finn were here, he would curse, "Damn brainwashing, it is said that capitalists are all dead fat pigs." His team has only 4 people, but they are all strong. This time, in addition to avoiding the pursuit of the Whitebeard pirates, he is also planning to develop his own power. He knew very well that no matter how strong he was, he could not compete with the world's #1 pirate group. He was made of iron, but he could not hit a few nails. For such a great opportunity, he would never let it go easily. He wanted fame and recruited soldiers, not to live a life of hiding. After decades of waiting, he has never lacked patience. At this moment, he is waiting for the storm to brew and waiting for his stage. On the other side, Miss Bakine and her silly son Edward Weeble were rushing to Magnetic Drum Island. "Mom, can I really get Dad to recognize me this time?" Edward Weeble asked Miss Bakine sincerely. "Of course, as long as we get Finn's head, we will be famous all over the world. By then, Whitebeard will compete to recognize you as his son." Miss Bakine looked at her proud work, her silly son. Only she knew what she was thinking. "Son, row faster. Speed up. Don't let Finn slip away." "Okay, Mom, I'm rowing hard." That I saw a small boat speeding on the sea. "Captain Ace, there is news." The young man ran over breathlessly and told Ace the results of the exploration. A hunter said that he saw a man far away on the east coast, constantly attacking the mountain, causing a huge shock. He didn't dare to get close, but just saw it from a distance, but from his description, it seems to be Mr. Finn. "Well, good job, hard work." Ace smiled at the young man, handed him a bottle of wine, and signaled him to have a good rest. Then, Ace quickly set off to the place specified in the message, and his figure turned into a burst of flames and quickly disappeared in the air. At the same time, Finn was also ready to end his practice. Suddenly, a flame flashed in the air at an extremely fast speed. In a few blinks of an eye, it had arrived in front of him. Ace quickly changed back to human form, staring at Finn, and glanced at the potholes and rubble on the mountain peak. A large piece of the entire mountain wall was cut out, and the scattered stones covered the ground. The corners of his mouth twitched unconsciously, and he felt like laughing. Is this guy a violent maniac? However, Ace had learned etiquette, and he bowed politely to Finn, smiled slightly and said, "Julent D, Finn." Chapter 42. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Badoka's D, Ace. Ace introduced himself politely. Finn's eyes fell on the somewhat masculine young man in front of him. He detected a hint of immaturity and innocence in his eyes. It seems that he lives a very stable life under the protection of Whitebeard. "Oh, Fire Fist Ace, the captain of the second squad of the Whitebeard group." Finn responded lightly, "I wonder what you want to see me for." "I heard that you taught Luffy hockey. As your sworn brother, I have to express my gratitude, right?" Ace said sincerely, "So that's it." Finn understood in his heart. It seems that Ace attaches great importance to the Brotherhood. However, Finn has long been uninterested in the grievances and hatreds in the pirate world. Perhaps it was the daily life of firewood, rice, oil and salt in his previous life that made him lose his passion and enthusiasm. With the growth of strength and the recovery of a sense of security, he gradually returned to the calmness of his previous life, or he really does not belong to this world. from beginning to end. Perhaps the pursuit of transformation is the constant guidance of this subconscious mind. When Ace arrived, he just acted calmly, without causing any ripples in Finn's heart. He treated him calmly, just like an ordinary person, no different from the common people. However, Finn still said politely, "That's not necessary. I was also wandering around at the beginning, with nowhere to go, and I stayed in Windmill Village by the way. Teaching Luffy was just a side job. Besides, that guy treated me well that year, ha ha ha." Finn couldn't help but recall his time with Luffy, and his mouth corners slightly raised. "Luffy is so thick-skinned, I really don't understand how he survived all the way. He had such an unreliable captain, and the guys on the ship should be exhausted enough." Finn couldn't help but complain in his heart. Luffy was born to make people laugh, and people couldn't help but smile when they thought of him. Maybe that was the so-called D's will. "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that someone like you would have a wandering experience." Ace couldn't help laughing. Life is always full of surprises and changes, isn't it? Finn smiled calmly, and couldn't help but think of his life experience on a deserted island, and couldn't help but fall into memories. Suddenly, Ace said something that surprised Finn very much. "Hey, Finn, join our Whitebeard pirates." Ace looked at Finn intently, his tone firm and serious. Finn couldn't react for a while. This was beyond his expectations. He was confused in his heart. Is this really what Ace should say? But it seems that there is something wrong. Am I familiar with him? Later, he gradually realized that it might be a misunderstanding caused by his fragmentary memory of his previous life. It was he who preconceived Ace's personality and character setting, and they didn't understand or know him from beginning to end. "Ha ha ha, you think so highly of me, but I don't mean to do that. I appreciate your kindness." Finn responded with a slight smile. "Yes, it's natural for a man like you not to be inferior to others," Ace said lightly, with a hint of recognition in his eyes. Finn's decision was just like his decision back then, nothing strange. Seeing that Finn refused to join the Whitebeard group, Ace was not interested in continuing the conversation at this time. After all, they were not familiar with each other. On the sea, young people's friendship comes more from fighting, and it is the nature of men to be competitive. At this time, Ace was a little eager to try, and he wanted to fight Finn. Also from the East China Sea, also 20 years old, Finn at this time was said to have the strength of a general, and his name was known all over the world. At the age of 17, he went to sea with the goal of Pirate King, founded the Spade Pirates, and refused the invitation of the 7 warlords of the sea under the world government, which was also famous all over the world. Although he lost to Whitebeard, he was the strongest man in the world. With the support of the Whitebeard Pirates, he is the captain of the 2nd division of the world's strongest pirate group at a young age, and his reputation and arrogance are even greater. Seeing Finn, who is also from the East China Sea, he has been determined to become the strongest since he was a child. At this moment, he wants to prove that he is the strongest of this generation. "Finn, let's have a sparring match," Ace said seriously, showing the unique passion and impulse of young people, as well as the unconvinced and unyielding personality. Finn looked at Ace in surprise, wondering in his heart, why does this guy want to challenge me? He was polite to Shanks in the comics at the beginning, why is it different when it comes to me? He doesn't think I'm weak, right? Then, through the perception of the smell, he knew that men's damn desire to win, looked at Ace again, smiled slightly, and then said, "No problem, if you want to try, then I will practice with you." Ace seeing this, the fire of war in his heart burned even more fiercely. He felt that Finn's attitude seemed a little disdainful. On the sea, he, Ace, the Fire Fist, was also famous. He decided to teach Finn a lesson and see the true level of the strength of Finn, the rumored admiral. Ace was quite dissatisfied with the description of Finn's admiral strength in the newspaper, and he was worried about it. He thought that this statement was exaggerated. Finn's strength might be strong, but it was definitely not so terrifying. As the captain of the 2nd team of the Whitebeard Pirates, Ace has been confronting the Navy on the sea for many years and knows the combat power of the admirals of the Navy. That is the trump card of the Navy. Every admiral is a human disaster. Ace is confident in his own strength and does not overestimate it. He does not think that he can be comparable to the Admiral now. After all, he is still young, just in his early 20s, and his current strength is enough for him to look down on the world. In fact, it is true. Without Finn's appearance, Ace's strength is unique among the young generation, and many veteran strongmen can hardly match him. At this moment, the two men confronted each other, and neither of them took the initiative to attack. Ace did not think that he was weaker than Finn, and taking the initiative would make him look guilty, and Finn would not do that either. The two sides just watched quietly. "Go ahead, if I do, you won't have a chance." Finn chose to come out and break the stalemate. He knew that his current strength was completely beyond Ace's reach, so he didn't want to waste time. Even if Whitebeard came, he didn't think he would lose. As soon as these words came out, Ace felt a touch of anger in his heart. This guy is too arrogant, and he actually looks down on me so much. "Okay, Mr. Finn, then I won't be polite," Ace said coldly, and his face was no longer polite as before, but a hint of anger instead. However, Ace will soon understand that what Finn said was not arrogant, but the truth. Chapter 43. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At this time, on the Drum Island, everyone was attracted by the deafening explosion. From time to time, there were flames blooming in the night sky, and huge pillars of fire intertwined into a thrilling scene. The sounds of explosions, earthquakes and collisions echoed throughout the island. At this moment, the tranquility of the island was broken by the sudden battle, and the night sky was filled with a tense and fierce atmosphere. "Captain, we have to go over and take a look," Badgers asked Blackbeard Teach with some curiosity. At this time, Blackbeard was also staring at the afterglow of the battle in the distance, looking absent-minded, as if thinking about something. "This is the flame ring, fire pillar. It's the fire fist. It seems that Captain Ace is fighting. Who is the opponent? Could it be Julent D, Finn?" Blackbeard kept analyzing in his heart. There is a feeling of being evenly matched. Is he a real strong man, and the newspaper is not exaggerated? After a while, he made up his mind and decided to go and find out in person. "Let's go and take a look," Blackbeard shouted to Badgers and Van Oka, and Poison Q was not here. "I don't know what other mission he went to." "Mom, it seems that there is a fight over there. Should we go to fight?" Edward Weeble asked Miss Bakeen curiously. But at this time, Miss Bakeen did not reply to him immediately, but analyzed the situation in front of her. "This is Fire Fist Ace. Who is he fighting with?" Miss Bakeen stared at the scene in the distance and said to herself, "Is it Julent D, Finn? It should be right. Son, let's go over there and take down Julent D, Finn's head. Let Whitebeard recognize your strength." After a brief thought, Miss Bakeen immediately called Weeble and prepared to set off. At this moment, the various pirate groups also noticed the movement on the beach, and they all rushed over curiously, wanting to find out and see which two strong men were fighting. This sudden battle aroused everyone's excitement and curiosity, and the entire island was shrouded in a tense and expectant atmosphere. At this time, the two people in the battle had not yet realized that their battle had attracted the attention of the entire island. I saw Ace attacking Finn with all his strength. Almost all of his moves had been performed, but Finn was calm from beginning to end. He just waved his arms and did not leave his feet to disperse Ace's fire attack from a distance. This scene made Ace more and more anxious, because his moves seemed to be ineffective against Finn. Ace really misunderstood Finn. It was not that Finn despised him, but that all the skills used by Ace were fire attributes, which made Finn feel a kind of resistance in his heart and unwilling to have too much contact with him. In addition, Finn had no idea how strong the ability of the natural fruit was. In the final analysis, he had too little combat experience, so Finn had been maintaining the Shenwuxian second-style gun god state for defense, and using cannon fists and finger guns for long-range attacks. At this time, the pirates on the island finally came to the beach one after another. The surrounding heated discussions began to rise one after another. "The man who fought against Ace with the fire fist, is he Julent D, Finn?" someone asked in the crowd. "It's really incredible. He looks about the same age as Ace, but his strength is stronger than Ace with the fire fist. Does he really have the combat power of an admiral? Some people who know Ace's identity and strength couldn't help but take a breath, and were shocked that the 20-year-old Finn was so terrible. It's really terrible. Are all the young people so strong? Have you realized what Julent D Finn is capable of? That the three Blackbeards were mixed in the crowd. Teach looked at Ace on the field, and some complicated emotions surged in his heart. After a long time together, there was still some affection. At the same time, there was also some fear of Ace's strength. However, when he saw Finn, who was fierce, opposite Ace, he frowned slightly. This was beyond his expectation. He never thought that this newcomer from the East China Sea who had just arrived at the Grand Line had such strength. He himself had been through many battles and could see at a glance that there was a huge gap between Ace and Finn. This also made it difficult for him to control the situation in the future. Things were completely beyond his control, making him a little overwhelmed. At this time, Buell and Miss Bakine were also in the crowd. They didn't know what they were talking about, and Buell kept nodding, looking like a mentally retarded child. Ace on the battlefield was facing Finn's strength at this time. This was completely unexpected. He had felt that Finn was very strong before, but he never thought that the gap was so big. He felt that he was like being played with. Since he went to sea at the age of 17, he has never suffered such a big loss from his peers. Finn's response was like playing with a child. He was really angry and ready to get serious. Finn, get ready. Don't blame me if you die. Ace shouted loudly. He had decided to use his strongest move. He had been reserved before and they were just tentative attacks. Flames gushed out from between his hands. In a few breaths, several circles of huge spiral flames were formed. These flames gathered in his hands, shining like the sun. At this time, the temperature at the seaside rose sharply, and the snowflakes were evaporated before they even fell, and the ground was drying up under the scorching flames. Take it. Finn. Ace looked at Finn and shouted. At this moment, Finn felt the threat of this move. He could feel that this was not an ordinary flame, and the temperature was extremely high. His face couldn't help but be a little solemn, and he couldn't help but start to be serious. Looking at Ace on the opposite side, he also agreed at this time. He was very strong, a strong man. At this moment, Finn had also made up his mind. He would use all his strength, because all his strength was the greatest respect for the strong. Great Flame Ring, Flame Emperor. Cannon Fist Maximum Equivalent Wave Pulse. Both sides attacked at the same time, and a huge fireball accompanied by a raging heat wave attacked Finn, while Finn's cannon fist also rushed towards Ace with black ripples. In an instant, the collision between the two produced a huge explosion, and the flames splashed everywhere. The surrounding pirates had to dodge everywhere to avoid being affected. In the fireball, the cannon fist broke through the flames, leaving a cylindrical vacuum channel. At this time, Ace had already exhausted his old strength and had not yet generated new strength. He had no time to dodge and was directly hit by the cannon fist carrying the black armed color, leaving a deep gully on the ground. Ace directly hit the mountain wall on the side. Bang! With a loud bang, the entire mountain wall collapsed, and Ace was hit hard into the mountain, dying and falling into a coma. Chapter 44. You are listening at Mtlnovel.audio. At the moment when Finn and Ace's all-out confrontation ended, a huge slash quickly attacked Finn. The person who attacked was the big fool Edward Weeble. Under the instruction of Miss Bakine, he seized Finn's momentary gap and cleverly used the opportunity when he had not yet gained strength. At this time, Finn could only rely on his own speed in a hurry to barely dodge the attack. However, the next battle has just begun. Buell is obviously a stubborn person, or he has been completely brainwashed by Bakine. He always executes her orders without hesitation and will not stop unless he receives a stop order. He waved the pheasant sword and launched a fierce attack on Finn. Finn, who lost the initiative in a panic, could only deal with it, and used his fist wrapped in armed color to violently collide with the pheasant sword. The sound of the collision was heard and resounded all around, and every collision between fist and sword was sparking. Buell's sword danced like a storm, swiftly and with lightning speed. Every slash was powerful, giving people an irresistible sense of oppression, and the pirates couldn't help but gasp. Although Finn was not at a disadvantage, the battle had entered Buell's rhythm. Although Buell's slashing could not cause any injuries to Finn, however, Finn did not dare to be careless at this time. Although this big fool was a little stupid, he was really strong. Although not as good as Finn, he was far better than the generals. Moreover, he had a strong sense of combat. Maybe this was what was called a lack of nerves. The ground where Finn stood began to collapse, and huge cracks spread around, showing the fierce collision between the two people in the field. What a despicable guy, he actually attacked. At this time, someone said indignantly. On the sea, although the strong are respected and full of all kinds of conspiracies and tricks, they care more about the surface of openness and honesty. Buell's unannounced attack immediately caused a commotion around him, but no one wanted to stop him, because this big fool was too strong. Anyone can be righteous, but only fools would risk their lives. "Captain, will Lord Finn lose?" a member of the Mad Wolf Pirates said worriedly as he looked at the battlefield. Obviously, Finn has a very high prestige among this group of pirates, and no one wants to see him lose. "Captain, should we take action?" "That's Ace the Fire Fist." Blackbeard's group was also watching the battle on the sidelines. Barges asked, knowing Blackbeard's past and the grievances and hatreds. Blackbeard ignored him at this time, but looked at Buell, a little hesitant. Obviously, he knew about this guy who ruined Whitebeard's reputation, and he was a little unsure whether this guy would turn around and want to kill him after seeing him. Blackbeard made another calculation in his mind. Ace was seriously injured at this moment. It was a rare opportunity. He could catch him without any difficulty. Considering Ace's identity, he believed that the world government would definitely pay a high price. Then, he thought of Whitebeard's protective temper and thought that this might be an opportunity to start a world war. The Navy was very likely to start a war with the Whitebeard pirates. He seemed to want to muddy the waters of the world, fish in troubled waters, and reap the benefits. Anyway, he was barefoot and not afraid of wearing shoes. So, he finally made up his mind. "Let's go and catch Ace," Blackbeard said to Barges and Van Oka, and then they went straight to the rock wall where Ace was buried. At this time, Finn was very annoyed. This big fool was completely in a state of not giving up until he died. He chopped and hacked at Finn wildly. Even a clay man would be angry, let alone him. Finn was thinking in his heart that he must make this big fool look good next time. Suddenly, Finn found something wrong in his observation. In the corner of his eye, he saw that Blackbeard and his gang had actually aimed at Ace when he was attacked by Buell. Although he didn't care about Ace's fate, Ace was already a strong man he recognized. He couldn't just sit back and watch when he was seriously injured and suffered such humiliation. Any strong man who dared to challenge himself should be respected, because strength is accumulated step by step. Therefore, Finn was very awed by strength. The strong man who was defeated by him was attacked by his enemies when he was seriously injured. This was a disrespect for strength, a disrespect for Finn, and an exploitation of him. Ace came with gratitude, and the serious injury was also caused by him. He couldn't ignore it in terms of emotion and reason. Ace was defeated in a fair fight. This was his fate, but at this time, he would never allow such a despicable thing. Seeing that Ace was about to be dug out and taken away by Blackbeard and his gang, Finn's eyes became more indifferent. Then, he caught Buell's slash with his fist and grabbed the pheasant with his other hand. However, Buell obviously would not let Finn succeed easily, and quickly slashed back with his sword. In an instant, Finn's palm wrapped in armed color was scratched by the knife, and blood flowed out, but at this moment, Finn seized the opportunity, approached Buell in an instant, and hit him with a huge cannon punch, knocking him away directly. Then after a few instants, Finn appeared opposite the Blackbeard pirates. "Ahahaha, Julent D. Finn, it's really powerful, but there are 3 of us. Are you going to attack us? What do you think your chances of winning are?" Blackbeard's eyes were completely focused on Ace at this time. He didn't want to cause Finn's dissatisfaction. After all, he had seen Finn's fighting power, which was so powerful that it was terrifying. He didn't want to be an enemy with him. Even if he could win, the loss would be huge, especially since their enemy was Whitebeard. Therefore, Blackbeard prefers to solve the problem through words to avoid unnecessary fighting. However, Finn has his own persistence. How can he let Blackbeard fool so easily? Leave here, I can forgive the past. Finn stared at Blackbeard coldly, his voice was a little indifferent, the scene was very chaotic, and he didn't want to escalate the situation further. Ahahaha, it seems that I, Blackbeard Marshall D. Teach, will become famous today. Blackbeard also did not intend to give in, and said to Finn, the atmosphere between the two sides solidified instantly, the chill filled the air, and the scene seemed to be frozen in an instant. Blackbeard's smile solidified on his face, and Finn's eyes became colder. The pirates who were watching also felt the tense atmosphere, and there was silence for a while, only the sea breeze blew by, making a faint whistling sound. Do it! Blackbeard shouted. Bang! Van Oka took the lead in firing directly, obviously wanting to catch Finn off guard. But under Finn's observation hockey, all threats were exposed. Finn instantly turned sideways and dodged the bullet wrapped in armament hockey. The bullet broke through the night in the air, and the sound of penetrating the stone wall was creepy. It penetrated 1 meter into the stone wall, leaving a deep hole. A sense of vigilance emerged in Finn's heart. The power of this special bullet wrapped in armament hockey was so great that he was afraid. He didn't know whether his body could withstand such an attack, and he didn't want to gamble. Immediately, Finn decided to kill the bastard who shot at him first. What he hated most was that people pointed guns at him. This was a taboo for many time travelers. It was deeply rooted in their hearts and had nothing to do with threats. It was purely a complex. Then, several afterimages flashed in the air, and Finn went straight to Van Oka. Obviously, Blackbeard had already prepared for it. He had already ordered Badgers to protect him closely. However, Badgers was no match for Finn. Under Finn's angry fist, Badgers tried to raise his fist to fight back, but in just a moment, his entire arm was broken and his body was hit hard. Seeing that he lost his protection in an instant, Van Oka sweated coldly. He knew Badger's strength. This situation was not because he was weak, but because the enemy was too strong, so strong that he was helpless. You like to shoot cold guns, right? Go to hell. Directly put his fingers together and stabbed in the air. A huge slash went straight to Van Oka, and Finn was determined to kill the guy who shot here. Blackbeard also reacted at this time and directly broke the slash with a punch covered with armed color. At the same time, Buell rushed over again, and seeing someone helping, he directly joined Finn's siege. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. Especially Blackbeard and Buell, one is comparable to a general and the other is comparable to a shichibukai. And Van Oka kept shooting from a distance. The situation in the field was once again turbulent, and the battle between the three became more and more intense. Finn gritted his teeth and withstood the attacks from all directions. He felt unprecedented pressure. Finn took Buell's slash, and then Blackbeard's fist attacked him. In a hurry, the slash came again. Finn struggled to take it, and his perception of observation reached its peak. The sniper's shooting was too powerful. Once hit, Finn would inevitably be injured. At the moment when Finn dodged a shot, Buell and Blackbeard attacked Finn almost at the same time. He could only do his best to take the powerful attacks of the two with both hands. In an instant, Finn's body was blown away by the powerful attack, leaving several deep pits when he landed, and he managed to stabilize his body. At this time, Finn was really angry. He had never been so aggrieved and angry since he came to this world. Unconsciously, Finn's skin was full of white gas began to emerge, and his whole body turned red. You really make me angry, Blackbeard, teach. Finn looked at the people in front of him and roared coldly. In extreme anger, he forgot all his concerns and only thought about blowing up the enemy in front of him. In an instant, the whole body of the armed color hardened, and at the same time a huge airflow emerged from Finn's back, forming a wing like an angel. At the same time, the high temperature radiated from the body directly turned the snow in the air into rain and fell. Then, the divine martial body, 3 styles, fallen angel, appeared in front of people for the first time, accompanied by Finn's violent roar. Are you ready to go to hell? Chapter 45. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What kind of ability is this? Is this an angel? Is this a fruit ability? The people around felt the terrifying aura emitted by Finn, and couldn't help but think in their hearts, at this moment, whether it was the members of the four emperors or the people of the various pirate groups, they were all shocked by this scene. They were already shocked by Finn's terrible strength. At this time, in this form, as long as they had some experience, they knew that it was definitely a big move. At this time, everyone was also concentrating and holding their breath, not daring to disturb the battle in front of them. At this time, the three parties in the field were even more on guard. Because Blackbeard was also afraid of Buell, he was worried that this fool would suddenly give him a knife, so he stood far away from him. Finn didn't intend to waste time, he knew that he had to fight quickly. He had to take the soft persimmon, and he made a decision in an instant. Under the fallen angel, he came to Buell in front of him in a few instants, and he punched him directly before his eyes could react. Under Finn's full strength and the huge impact, Buell's whole body was blown up, his eyeballs were exposed, and blood was gushing out of his mouth. Finn learned from his previous lesson and caught up with Buell in an instant. In an instant, he was already in midair. Before Buell could resist, he used his full-strength Ryasakura cannon punch to achieve the classic scene of hitting low from high. Under Buell's horrified expression, Finn punched him so hard that he bled from all 7 orifices. He didn't know how many bones were broken, which was horrible to see. The falling body hit deep into the ground. The earth was shaking, and the ground seemed unable to withstand such force, and collapsed 5 meters in an instant, in a short moment, with only 2 punches, before Blackbeard could react, and while the sniper was still trying to find the target, Finn had already killed Buell. At this time, Blackbeard was no longer laughing and joking, and everyone looked nervous. Then Finn activated his ability, and in a few flashes, before Blackbeard and his men could react, he had already arrived in front of Blackbeard and punched him hard. Blackbeard was obviously not ready at this time. He could only use his fruit ability to harden his armament and forcibly take Finn's attack. Under Finn's fast sprint punch, Blackbeard was instantly knocked out. The huge force of his fist made him spit blood, but fortunately, his strength was very strong, and he stood firm in an instant. While Blackbeard was flying in the air, Finn started again and came in front of Van Oka in an instant. Before he could react, he was punched. However, at this time, there was a person who rushed out and blocked Van Oka. It was Badgers. He obeyed Blackbeard's order and protected him closely. Because he had broken one arm before, he could only hastily use his left arm to take the attack, but he couldn't take Finn's punch at this time. Blackbeard was knocked out, and he had only a few strengths. He and Van Oka were directly hit into the mountain wall, and at the same time, a loud noise was heard, and the mountain wall broke apart. Blackbeard recovered and looked at his 2 men, who were his loyal men who followed him when he was down and out. He was also angry at this time. Perhaps this was the so-called captain's responsibility. Seeing Finn in this form, he guessed that some ability might have been activated, so Blackbeard immediately activated the dark water, trying to suck Finn over, grab him, and make him lose his ability. In an instant, Finn felt a strong gravitational force, as if to pull him towards Blackbeard. Finn didn't understand for a while. Was Blackbeard looking for death? But he didn't think too much, because he didn't believe that Blackbeard could turn the tables in this situation, no matter what his ability was. Directly following the gravitational wave, the huge thrust of the fallen angel, Finn came to Blackbeard in an instant. Just when Blackbeard's huge gravitational force in both hands wanted to control Finn, Finn also launched a cannon punch at Blackbeard. With a bang, the sound of broken bones rang out, and Blackbeard's hand was directly broken. How is it possible? Blackbeard looked at the ineffectiveness of his ability and said in disbelief, "You are not a fruit ability user." Finn sneered and showed a ferocious smile. "Yes, I am not a fruit ability user." After that, he directly hit Blackbeard with a cannon punch again, knocking him out. Blackbeard roared in pain, and the situation at this time was obviously out of his control. The others in the field were also stunned. They didn't expect that Finn was not a fruit ability user, but had such a strong strength. Finn decided to pursue the victory. This time, he was determined to keep Blackbeard here. It was not because of pity for Ace, nor hatred for Blackbeard, but the siege just now made him angry. He needed to release this anger, and the price weighs its Blackbeard's life. Bang! 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 Finn's figure kept flashing in the air, catching up with Blackbeard in the air, shooting up and down, left and right at the same time, bombarding him. At this time, Blackbeard was bleeding from all 7 orifices, his ribs were broken, and he was no longer in human form. It was really horrible. Are you desperate? Are you scared? Do you regret it? Are you ready to go to hell? Looking at Blackbeard's miserable state, Finn said coldly with some relief. At this time, Badgers and Van Oka had crawled out of the ruins and saw Blackbeard in such a situation. Even though Badger's hands were completely disabled, he rushed to Finn and wanted to use his body to block Finn's attack and fight for Blackbeard's life. Punch after punch, Badger's was also in critical condition. Blackbeard took the opportunity to seize the gap and activated his ability, and darkness instantly enveloped the entire battlefield. Finn didn't know what the dark ability was, and was quite afraid. He dodged to the side and stared at Blackbeard. However, at this moment, Blackbeard's huge black ball suddenly attacked Finn. Finn had no choice but to dodge, but the ball went straight to the ground. The entire coast was instantly swallowed by darkness, and even the observation color could not see through it. After a few short breaths, the darkness disappeared, and the entire coast was crushed. Everyone around took a breath at the same time. Finn also intuitively felt the attack power of the natural fruit ability user, and it felt that it was indeed a bit over the standard. The AO large-scale attacks were more powerful than one. He wanted to further finish off the 3 Blackbeards, but at a glance, they had disappeared. Seeing this, Finn could only catch Buell. He was determined to end the life of this fool. Looking around, he also found that there was no trace. It turned out that Buell had been rescued by the cunning Miss Bakeen when fighting with the Blackbeard group. Fuck, it was a waste, right? Pirates really can't kill people, right? Finn couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Then he released his fallen angel form and said to Mad Wolf and his group, "Mad Wolf, bring Ace and follow me." "Yes, Master Finn." Mad Wolf was ecstatic and glanced around proudly. Chapter 46. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ahahaha, ahahaha. On the boat, Blackbeard, who had temporarily escaped from danger, was laughing wildly. At this time, Poison Q was also on the boat. It turned out that Blackbeard had planned to let Poison Q, who had the weakest frontal combat ability, prepare the boat in advance, so he did not show up in the previous battle. Blackbeard knew very well that he was now regarded as a mortal enemy by the Whitebeard pirates and could not be careless. If his whereabouts were leaked, a group of sharks would be attracted, so he made preparations in advance so that he could evacuate quickly in case of bad situations. From this, it can be seen that Blackbeard is really a bold and careful person, and he thinks very carefully. This person has been able to hide his strength for more than 20 years. If he didn't have some intelligence, he would never be able to do it. If the plot is slightly changed, and a section is added that Blackbeard is seeking revenge for his father's murder, wouldn't this be a proper inspirational drama? Captain, you're almost beaten like this, and you can still laugh. I really admire you. Badgers looked at the laughing Blackbeard in silence, and couldn't understand why he was still in the mood to laugh. At this time, Blackbeard had already been simply treated by Poison Q. His whole body was covered with bandages, just like a mummy, which showed that he was really seriously injured this time. Badger's hands were also broken, and there were few intact parts of his upper body. He was really almost beaten to death by Finn at the beginning. Now he still felt scared when he thought about it. Badgers. Aren't we still alive? Be happy, life and death are all destiny. If you are afraid, you are finished, ahahaha. Badgers looked puzzled, and felt that Blackbeard's words were quite meaningful, but he felt something was wrong, and he was confused. Was he PUA by the captain? As long as you are alive, your dreams will never end. Blackbeard was obviously instilling the concept of success to his subordinates again. This guy's brainwashing ability is really first class. If Finn was here, he would have applauded him. He is a master of emotional mobilization. In his previous life, he would have been a pyramid scheme leader. However, at this moment, Blackbeard did exude a heroic spirit, which really infected the three people. For a moment, their evaluation of Blackbeard was raised a few points. They even thought that this was our captain. Victory and defeat are common in the military. Sooner or later, the captain will lead us to get back. But captain, our tracks have been exposed this time. You and barges are seriously injured and will not recover for a while. Our situation will be very dangerous next. How should we deal with the members of the Whitebeard pirates and those who want to gain Whitebeard's friendship? Van Oka suddenly interrupted. Obviously, among this group of people, Van Oka looks like the only normal guy, with a cultural atmosphere and relatively minor injuries. At this moment, he is sober and obviously aware of the severity of the situation. They are facing great danger at this time. Ahahaha. Then we won't hide, let the storm come harder, let the world turn upside down. Blackbeard said with a somewhat crazy look. He was very clear about his situation at this time. Having been in the Whitebeard pirates for more than 20 years, he knew how powerful they were. At this moment, they were like a candle in the wind, which would go out if blown. However, Blackbeard made a decision. He wanted to make Ace's identity public. This was the biggest secret that he, who never slept, overheard that night. He wanted to let the storm sweep the whole world. He believed that as long as the news reached the Navy, they would definitely take action against Ace. With Whitebeard's personality, Blackbeard believed that he would not let his son be caught and executed by the Navy, and would definitely take action. So let the Navy contain the Whitebeard pirates, and they would be relatively safe. World News Headquarters. Moses. I'm Morgans. Which distinguished guest is calling? Morgans asked after taking the Den Mushy handed over by his assistant. Then, the voice from the Den Mushy shocked him so much that he almost fell to the ground. What? Fire Fist Ace is the son of Pirate King Julent D, Roger, and Padokas is his mother's surname. Obviously, this news made him sweat. It was too explosive. He couldn't have not known what it meant, especially since Fire Fist Ace was in Grand Orbiter. On the Navy's territory, the Whitebeard pirates are the most protective pirates. Whitebeard, who has no offspring, regards all members as sons and treats them as family members. This is also what Whitebeard has always adhered to. He and his family live a quiet life, which is one of the reasons why the Navy did not waste too much energy on him, because Whitebeard is not very aggressive. However, if anyone dares to touch his family, then the strongest man in the world will tell you what is truly the strongest in the world. Are you telling the truth? Morgans was speaking a little intermittently at this time, and he was too excited. This is a piece of news that shocked the world. He was afraid that he was hallucinating or heard it wrong, so he urgently needed to confirm it. Ahahaha. The news is true. On the other end of the Den Mushy, there was only a burst of laughter and a sentence, and then it was hung up. At this time, Morgans was still shocked, muttering to himself, is the world going to be destroyed? Something big is going to happen. The assistant was also shocked. Obviously, he had followed Morgans for many years and was very sensitive to intelligence. If this news is true, then the Navy's previous merits of executing Roger will bear a huge stain. Pirate King Roger opened the era of great pirates. Young people everywhere were inspired by him and sailed for their dreams and freedom. Roger became their spiritual pillar. Although he has passed away, he did die with a smile. Roger's smile at death made the young people's blood boil. For the sake of dreams, what is there to fear about death? And now, if we know that the descendants of Pirate King Julent D, Roger are still alive, the blood of the Pirate King is still passed on, and the will still exists, I dare not imagine whether the times will go out of control again. The current situation is already extremely difficult for the Navy, and the 7 warlords of the sea system has been activated, which is a disguised compromise with pirates. This has dealt a heavy blow to the justice advocated by the Navy, and has caused an uproar within the Navy, and a large number of Navy personnel feel ashamed. The most disgusted person among them is the former Admiral Zifa, who personally experienced the painful experience of his entire family being killed by pirates. The Navy has come to this point. Isn't it because the situation on the sea has reached a point where it is difficult to maintain by the Navy alone? "President, do we really want to report this news?" The assistant asked in a trembling voice, obviously knowing that the content is too sensitive and afraid of being heard by others. Chapter 47. You are listening at novelfull.audio. New World Big Mon Pirates. Mom, Comper sent a message and sent back a photo of the battle. He estimated that Julent D. Finn might not just be a simple admiral. Big Mon was obviously interested and signaled to continue. He guessed that the previous news might be the Navy's praise for Finn, just to let us pirates contain such uncontrollable combat power. It is even possible to defeat Kizaru. Otherwise, it can't be explained that the news about Finn suddenly spread all over the sea. The purpose is obvious, that is, to let the pirates contain Finn. This must be the Navy's instigation. Katakuri reported to Big Mon with a serious face. And, Comper also said that Finn's strength has exceeded his judgment range, and he said that you must make your own judgment. Oh. He actually gave such an evaluation. It seems that the man is really extraordinary. If Finn was present, he really couldn't help but applaud. The analysis is very insightful. Sure enough, there are smart people everywhere. If you really think others are stupid, then the real fool must be yourself. Well, did you defeat Kizaru? Big Mon looked at the photos sent back one by one, thinking, with a solemn and serious expression, is this Marshal D. Teach, the recent traitor of the Whitebeard pirates? He is actually a dark fruit ability user, and he also has such a strong physical ability. He is really well hidden. Where did Julent D. Finn come from? Is he a real physical powerhouse? Are there still young people who insist on this path in the sea? Big Mon looked at the intelligence photos in his hand and pondered in his heart. When he saw Finn's divine martial body, 3 styles, fallen angel, he was so excited that his eyes almost popped out. Is this the advanced application of life return that Captain Rock said only the truly powerful can access? Could it be that Julent D. Finn's life return has been cultivated to the level of Rock's? How old is he? At this time, Big Mon's face was full of disbelief. New World Whitebeard Pirates. On the Whitebeard Pirates, the atmosphere was tense. It was the time for the meeting of the 2 emperors, who were confronting each other and arguing about Ace's pursuit of Blackbeard. The 2 sides were fierce and a conflict was about to break out. Suddenly, someone brought new news about Ace, breaking the tense atmosphere. Dad, stop. There is new news about Ace. Marco hurriedly flew over and shouted. At this time, Shanks and Whitebeard took the initiative to withdraw their domineering color, indicating that they would continue with the follow-up news. On the drum island of the Grand Line, Ace went to meet Finn and challenged him. Marco reported. He observed Whitebeard's expression and then looked at Shanks. Go on, don't worry about this kid, there's nothing to hide. Whitebeard said lightly, obviously not thinking it was a special secret. Marco thought, if Ace knew that I spread the news that he was knocked out with 1 punch throughout the New World, would he bother me every day and challenge me to a duel? However, he still listened to Whitebeard's words and continued. Ace was defeated in the fight with Finn. He used his full strength to perform the Flame Emperor, but was knocked out by a punch from Julent D. Finn. What? X100. Everyone on this ship knows how strong Ace is. Shanks also knows it well. After all, in the New World, Ace, the Fire Fist, is a well-known name that has been earned through real efforts. Now, he was knocked out by a young man of the same age in 1 move on the Grand Line, and was even knocked unconscious. This completely subverted their cognition. Shanks also looked incredible. Now it seems that the strength of the Admiral may be conservative. Everyone can't help but think, is it already at the level of his father? This is simply unbelievable. Everyone was stunned. Marco looked at their surprised expressions and felt a little better. After all, he had the same expression when he first heard the news. However, he still had more explosive news in his heart, which made him secretly proud. You wait for the shock. Marco's heart was full of evil interest. Edward Weeble suddenly attacked when Finn defeated Ace, Marco said carefully, and his eyes couldn't help but glance at Whitebeard. Seeing that Whitebeard looked normal, he felt relieved and continued. While they were fighting, Blackbeard, also known as Teach, wanted to seize the opportunity to capture Ace. At this point, the atmosphere on the ship suddenly became cold, and it was obvious that everyone was furious. But Finn stopped him, and then Blackbeard and Weevil were all seriously injured by Finn. If it weren't for his men risking their lives to save him, Blackbeard would have been beaten to death. Marco continued. At this time, the atmosphere on the ship eased. Hearing that Blackbeard was almost beaten to death, everyone was very relieved and hated that they were not at the scene and could not see it with their own eyes. This shows how much Blackbeard's actions were resented by the Whitebeard pirates. What? How is this possible? Blackbeard and Weevil were defeated by Julent D, Finn alone, and almost beaten to death. Are you telling the truth? Shanks obviously couldn't believe it. Others didn't know Blackbeard's strength, but he didn't know it. The scar on his eye reminded him of the strength of his enemy in real time. Is this Julent Finn really that strong, a 20-year-old young man? Shanks was shocked, his face was dull, and he looked incredulous. He had bet on Luffy of the new era, but now he heard that he might have made a wrong bet. After more than 10 years of waiting and enduring the pain of losing his arm, a fierce man of the same generation as Luffy appeared when the flowers were blooming. He could beat Luffy and his strength might not be inferior to his own. How could he accept this? What about Ace now? Whitebeard was obviously very concerned about the successor he trained, and said with some worry on his face. According to the intelligence personnel, Ace was taken to Dr. Kureha on Drum Island by Finn for treatment. Everything seems to be fine at the moment, and Finn does not seem to be hostile to Ace. It may be because Finn and Straw Hat Boy, Ace's adopted brother, seem to have a good relationship. Marco continued. Well. It seems that Ace has saved his life this time. Whitebeard was also relieved after hearing this, but he immediately thought, maybe this is not a bad thing for Ace. Let this kid see how big the outside world is, and see if he dares to act like the boss of the sky, the second of the earth, and he dares to look down on ordinary people. Whitebeard didn't care too much about Finn injuring Ace. If a man loses, gets injured, or even dies in a battle, it is a man's honor. Besides, isn't this the final destination of a man of the sea? However, what Whitebeard didn't know was that a storm was brewing, which would stir up changes in the world. He, Ace, and the Whitebeard pirates would not be spared. Chapter 48. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sengoku, Garp, Vice Admiral Tsuru and the three admirals are discussing Finn's affairs in the admiral's office at the Navy headquarters. Although Finn was brought to the surface by them, the strength shown by Finn in this battle has reached a point that cannot be ignored. Since Kizaru's hand was broken by Finn, the discussion about Finn has entered a long period of silence. Everyone understands that angering this person will lead to unbearable consequences, and it is not impossible to lose one's life. Therefore, for Finn, people chose to remain silent and dare not act rashly. At this stage, cold treatment seems to be the only wise choice, not only to protect oneself, but also out of consideration for the overall interests of the Navy. For the time being, no one wants to take the initiative to stir Finn's tiger whiskers, because this may trigger an uncontrollable storm. Therefore, it is better to choose to wait and see, allowing those curious or brave pirates to explore Finn's details, so that the Navy observing in secret can have a deeper understanding of Finn's strength and find ways to deal with him, because the Navy's top brass always had a worry in their hearts, that is, whether the storm of Finn would sweep the Navy, so they had to prepare for it in advance, so as not to be caught off guard. This Julent D Finn is really unpredictable. His progress is so fast that it is simply amazing. Zhangguo frowned deeply and said. Although he had expected that Finn would be unusual, his actual performance also made him feel pressured. We may have underestimated his potential before, especially his performance in combat far exceeded our expectations, Vice Admiral Tsuru said after a moment of silence. The most important thing is that we still don't have all his cards. Marshal Zhangguo, it's not good, it's not good. The communicator rushed into the meeting room in a hurry. It was obvious that the situation was very urgent. He didn't even notice the meeting of the top brass, and pushed the door straight in. Zhang frowned, but thought that his communicator couldn't be so unruly. After all, he had been with him for so many years, and he was very clear and realized that the situation might really be very urgent. What's the hurry? Is the sky falling? Or are the pirates calling? Take your time, don't be anxious. Zhang Guo pretended to be calm and relaxed, and teased. The correspondent said breathlessly, just now, the deputy of the news King Morgan sent a message saying that Badoka's D. Ace is the son of Julent D. Roger, and this news has been sent to the whole world, reminding us to be prepared. Nanny. X6. This damn bastard. What on earth does he want to do? Does he want the world to be destroyed? Zhang Guo was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat, and then said angrily. His many years as a marshal gave him an extremely keen insight into the current situation. The Navy has been trying to erase the drastic impact caused by Julent D. Roger for more than 20 years, but everything it has done seems to be in vain. Even more and more young people have become pirates, longing for freedom and pursuing their dreams. It also plunged the world into a more turbulent and evil era, causing great pressure on the Navy, and even caused the Navy to be short of young people, and there was even a gap in the young generation of strong people. In the long run, how can the Navy continue to suppress the sea and maintain world justice? Roger has been dead for so many years, and the matter has not only not been settled, but has become more and more serious. I can't imagine how the times will go out of control after the news that he has a son comes out. Roger's son is actually fine. Akainu was also a little surprised at this time. After all, the Navy had made a terrible fuss about this matter, which not only violated justice, but also aroused the disgust of many Marines. The protest at that time even led to a wave of hatred against the Navy. Yo, it's terrible. The blood of the Pirate King, no wonder it is so extraordinary. It's really troublesome. Kizaru said casually, but his brows were slightly frowned. Call me quickly. Then he immediately ordered the messenger to call back quickly. Unfortunately, no one answered the phone. They called again and again, and the people on the scene waited very patiently. They were eager to know if there was still room for recovery. However, Morgans had obviously anticipated it and locked the Den Mushi in the safe, so no matter how they called, no one answered. It seems that it won't work. Next, everyone should prepare themselves, Zhang Guo said in a serious tone. Order all the warships on the Grand Line to rush to the Drum Island, and all the officers and soldiers of the headquarters who are not on the mission should stay on standby and prepare for war. He turned his head and said to Xiao He beside him, Xiao He, immediately order all the school-level officers of the 4 Seas base to come to the headquarters to help. At this juncture, Zhang Guo knew that he had to act quickly, gather strength, and prepare for the battle. He knew very well the temper and strength of the strongest man in the world, and he would never give up his family. Kizaru, you rush over immediately and capture Badoka's D. Ace. You must control him before things get worse, and don't give any chance to those conspirators on the sea. Don't let them take advantage of the situation and let things get out of control. Sengoku quickly ordered. Akainu, you lead your men to support Kizaru immediately, and set off now. When necessary, I allow you to make your own decisions. Yes, I will. Akiji, go to the Sabaody archipelago immediately and station for defense. Prevent the New World pirates from entering the Grand Line through Fishman Island. You must also pay close attention to the movements of that man and report any special movements in time. Then the 3 of them took orders, acted vigorously, performed their duties, and performed their respective tasks. Garp, you bastard did it, didn't you? After the 3 of them left, Sengoku yelled at Garp. Obviously, Roger's son must have been concealed by Garp, because it was this bastard who was closest to Roger. Ha, what's the matter, Sengoku, you're so flustered, it's not like you, I was just sleeping. Garp said with a look of disapproval. After many years of partnership, Sengoku knows Garp's character very well. This kind of fooling is simply telling him that it was he who did it, but when he thought about how things had come to this point, how many years of old partners, what could he do? Then he sighed and felt really tired. At this time, Vice Admiral Tsuru saw Sengoku like this and couldn't help but want to laugh. These two men, lifelong partners, each of them had their own plans, but what could the old buddy say? Maybe this is the bond between men. Chapter 49. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ace, I didn't expect that Julent D, Roger is actually your father. He's the Pirate King. At this time, on the Drum Island, Crazy Wolf was holding the latest issue of the newspaper, which contained information about Ace's identity. He seemed very excited. Of course, he is the Pirate King. The dream of all pirates is to be the freest and to have a great treasure. Damn teach. Damn it, Ace looked at the newspaper, and suddenly fire came out of his head, but he was originally a natural flame fruit ability user, so it was reasonable for his head to have fire. This also shows that Ace's hatred for Blackbeard was deep at this time. But Ace, your situation is a bit bad now. The son of the Pirate King, this is big news, and the whole new world will be shaken by it. Crazy Wolf looked at Ace and said worriedly, the Navy will definitely not let you go if they know about it. Crazy Wolf was really worried about Ace. The bloodline of the Pirate King, Crazy Wolf definitely didn't want to be cut off by the Navy, because this would be a huge blow to the entire pirate world. He had Roger as his idol and was inspired to go to sea, so he naturally didn't want to see Roger's son die like this. During the days when Ace was recuperating, the Mad Wolf gang also found a place in the castle to settle down and took care of Ace wholeheartedly. Friendship between men is sometimes so simple and clear. After just a few days of getting along, the two sides became true friends. At the same time, Finn stood alone on the lonely peak near the castle, in the wind and snow, reviewing the details of the previous battle. Every battle is a precious experience for him. In the real world, there is no chance to delete the file and start over. So every battle needs to be carefully summarized and recalled, and lessons learned from it, so as not to repeat the same mistakes in the future. After all, there will be defeats in battles, and mistakes will cost lives. Finn also doesn't think this will be the last battle, especially after Ace's identity has been exposed. The next era will be more chaotic, and there may be more battles waiting for him. At present, the entire Drum Island has become the center of the storm. The admirals of the Navy are probably on their way. Finn guessed that Kizaru should be the first to arrive. After all, he flies fast. Maybe I should have a good talk with Ace, otherwise, if this goes on, the entire Drum Island may be destroyed. Finn thought with some worry. He came from a peaceful world. His dull, depressing, and hopeless life made his heart full of resentment. After arriving, he always wanted to be strong and detached. He didn't want to get involved in cause and effect, but he was not cold enough to ignore the lives of all the people in a country. Ace, what are your plans? If you continue, this country may be dragged into the abyss by you. Finn got straight to the point. The situation at this time was critical and urgent. He didn't want to cause a disaster and destroy the country because he saved Ace and seriously injured Teach, making him lose his sense of security. At that time, the cause and effect of all lives will be intertwined with him, and he can't ignore it. His state of mind has not yet reached this point. He is still a mortal, not a god, and he can't look at all living beings indifferently. Ace is not stupid. He understands that he is now like a barrel of gunpowder, the fuse of the battle, and the symbol of disaster. Wherever he is, there may be destruction. At this time, his resentment towards Roger has reached the extreme. He thinks that all this is caused by him. He has endured all the pain that he should not have endured, and he hates it very much. Ace decided to leave here alone. He did not intend to inform Whitebeard because he knew that the current situation was too bad. If he told Whitebeard, the entire Whitebeard pirates might fall into the abyss because of him. For his former companions, he did not want to see them die because of saving him. Therefore, he decided to face it alone. It started with him and ended with him. He was not going to hide. He was determined to show a braver side than Roger in that empty sea and fight the Navy alone. Finn watched all this and recognized Ace's performance, both in terms of strength and as a man's responsibility. Finn knew that although his strength was also cultivated bit by bit, it relied to a large extent on the transformation of the system. but Ace was not like that. Ace's strength was cultivated through 10 years of practice. In order to realize his dream of going to sea, he has been picking up scraps in the garbage mountain to save money and practice fighting since he was a child. Among the younger generation, there are almost no people who can compete with Ace. Don't talk about the smoke fruit. Without the sea stone, the fart attack is useless. How can it be compared with the devastating attack ability of the flame fruit, especially now that Ace has only been out to sea for a few years? He has been under the protection of the Whitebeard pirates, playing some mid to high-end games, and has not fought against top-level strongmen. His fruit ability has only been developed a little, as a rare natural devil fruit that burns everything. Can it be weak? Can't beat the magma fruit. Is it just that the simple fruit ability is not as good as it? Akainu has developed 30 years more than Ace. Finn also wants to know where Ace's upper limit is. Is the flame fruit really something that even dogs won't eat? He also knows that all members of the Whitebeard pirates should be on the way now, and the Navy has not made sufficient preparations this time. There is no strategic layout of Marineford, and there is no gathering of the 7 warlords of the sea. Ace has not been caught yet, and the situation is completely different. Finn wants to know whether the crew members belonging to the Pirate King will appear under the current circumstances. After all, this is not a life and death test, not going to Marineford, the ironclad Navy headquarters, but to the great waterway with natural dangers. Looking at Ace's back, Finn felt compassion. When a strong man ends his life in the world, he should have the strongest attitude. He decided to give Ace 3 days to recover from his injuries and delay him for 3 days to the best of his ability. Of course, he had to do his best, but he guessed that it was most likely Kizaru who came and should give him this face. After that, Ace's life and death will follow fate. For Finn, he has his own ideals and cannot change for others. There is a huge horror between life and death. He has experienced this scene after experiencing death once. Because of this, Finn has the crazy idea of pursuing transformation and transcendence. Eternal life is what everyone desires, whether it is an emperor or a peddler. Finn is no exception, but he is more persistent. This is not because he is more paranoid or crazy, but because the existence of the system makes him see hope. People can't reach it, call it God. Strong, even stronger, so strong that it is difficult to understand, is God. 100,000 pounds of strength is still a mortal body. What about 200,000 pounds? Maybe, 1 million gene. 10 million gene. No one knows, is it a mortal or a supernatural being? Perhaps he has long been revered as a god by the world. As for why Finn gave Ace 3 days. Because he was exploring his own path. The feeling of his previous life told him that these numbers have special meanings. Maybe it is a kind of superstition in his heart, maybe it really exists. Finn does not intend to delve into it, he just obeys his heart. Chapter 50. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the same time when everyone on Drum Island saw the news report, all the major pirate groups in the Grand Line, including the New World, also received the news. For a moment, the entire sea was covered with dark clouds, and was suddenly shrouded in the haze of war. Dad, something bad has happened. Marco hurriedly ran to Whitebeard with a newspaper. Everyone on the Moby Dick was also curious. Marco, who was usually calm and composed, was extremely anxious today. It seemed that something really big had happened. They all came over to find out what had happened. Dad, the news reported about Ace's identity. Is he really the son of Julent D, Roger? Marco eagerly asked Whitebeard for confirmation. In fact, the information contained in this news is simply shocking. If there is any mistake, it will affect the entire Whitebeard pirates, and he can't help but pay attention to it. Whitebeard instantly had a gloomy face and an extremely serious expression, and did not answer Marco's words immediately. Everyone shuddered when they saw this. Could it be true? Who leaked Ace's identity? Could it be Teach? He was just seriously injured and his whereabouts were exposed, and such news came out. In addition, he had been on Ace's ship for a long time. It seems that Teach told the news agency about Ace's identity in order to muddy the waters of the world and let the Navy contain us. Only then can he be safe, and we can't care about him. It seems that he was really injured this time. but he is really a sinister bastard. My good son, teach. That's right, Ace is Roger's son. Seeing everyone's solemn expressions, Whitebeard did not continue to hide it. Besides, the news has spread everywhere now, and even if he denies it, it is useless. But Ace, is it really important whether he is Roger's son? Whitebeard shouted to everyone, have you forgotten? I am Whitebeard. The ship was very lively at this time, and everyone had different expressions and expressed their opinions. Dad, you actually hid such a big thing from us. Dad was also concerned about Ace's safety. Besides, is it really that important to be the son of someone? We are pirates. When have we ever discussed bloodline? Marco said bluntly to everyone. Yes, we are pirates. Yes. What should we do now? Ace is in the Grand Line, in the control area of the Navy. The situation is very dangerous. If we don't take action, it's only a matter of time before we get caught. Flower Sword Vista pointed out the key to the problem. Obviously, swordsmen are generally calmer, everyone reacted at this time. It turned out that this was the most important thing now. Yes, do we have to run to the Grand Line to save Ace? Everyone was a little hesitant at this time. Ace is my son. He ventured to the Grand Line to protect my name. I decided to save him. As for your choice, I don't want to interfere. Pirates are free. Whitebeard was very determined at this time. He decided to save Ace for both emotional and rational reasons. He did not force the crew, but chose to let them make their own decisions. He knew that pirates were only right if they believed themselves. Squard, I know that what Roger did made you hate him, but you have to know that no one can choose their own origin. I hope you can think clearly whether you should pay for your father's hatred. Whitebeard said to the confused Squard. After listening, Squard fell into hesitation. It was a fact that Roger killed his companions, and his hatred for Roger was deeply rooted in his heart. He also had a good relationship with Ace, but now he knew that Ace was the son of his enemy. This was a great irony. At this time, he fell into an inner conflict. After some entanglement, he understood that he had no reason to resent Ace. Ace was born after Roger's death, and had nothing to do with him. Recalling his time with Ace, he also decided to save him. At the same time, everyone on the ship was united in hatred of the enemy. As expected of the pirates who roamed the sea, they all clamored to march into the Grand Line to rescue Ace. After all, they are not in crisis now, and it is not a time when everyone is in danger. Even if they fight, they will not necessarily lose. They are the Whitebeard pirates, with the strongest man in the world, the strongest pirate group in the world, and they dare not go to the Grand Line. Everyone on the ship is the face of the Whitebeard pirates, and each of them is extraordinary. None of them is a real weakling, otherwise they would not be able to board this ship. Years of fighting and confronting the Navy are commonplace, and there is no panic at all. Seeing that the military spirit is available, Whitebeard immediately ordered to set off directly and sail to Drum Island on the Grand Line. He also asked Marco to notify the 43 pirates under his command and let them decide whether to go. Obviously, this is just a formal notification. No one is stupid enough not to go. They are all people who rely on the Whitebeard pirates to live a chic life. If the big ship sinks, what hope is there for a good life in the future? Their fate is closely linked, and they will prosper together. Moreover, they are all heroes on the sea. If they don't go, won't it make people laugh? What is the most important thing on the sea? Isn't it reputation? It turns out that the captain's bloodline is still there. Ace, it seems that the captain has bet his future on his son, and gave his son the name of the Saber. What a high expectation. On the Red Force, Shanks looked at the latest newspaper, and his thoughts went back to the days with Roger and Rayleigh a long time ago. What are your plans, Captain? Beckman said to Red Hair casually, as if it was nothing serious, with a calm expression. The balance of the world cannot be broken, and this war must be stopped, otherwise the order of the world will collapse. Shanks said seriously, as a man who dares to bet his arm, he has a big vision and considers the order of the world. No wonder his domineering color is so strong. Well, it seems that it is not the right time yet. Beckman said meaningfully, but it is true that in the current rush, it is really hard to say whether the Navy can beat Whitebeard. After all, the situation is urgent and the Navy's forces are too dispersed. Companions are ready to go to the Grand Line and stop this war. Shank said to everyone, if it is just to rescue Ace, then Red Hair is likely not to go. After all, he is not Ace's nanny, but if it is to stop a war that affects the balance of the world, Red Hair will decide to go without hesitation, because this often only requires military deterrence, and does not require real fighting. Red Hair is very clear about this. So Roger, you really meant what you said, that your son will become the Pirate King and change the world. Your son inherited the name of your sword. Do you want him to inherit your will? Rayleigh recalled the last scene with Roger and said lightly, then he decided to go to the Grand Line to meet Ace the Fire Fist. What he didn't know was that this scene was happening in different places at the same time. If Ace was taken to the Navy headquarters and had to risk his life to break into the Dragon's Den and Tiger's Lair, he would not go, but if it was the Grand Line, they could act according to the circumstances, and they were all happy to do it, because they were the crew of the Pirate King, they were the blood of their captain, and they didn't provide any help they could, so it can only be said that Roger was wrong at the time.